single-handedly stop new coal plants, tar sands pipelines, and oil wells by simply refusing to insure them. So they could stop them from happening completely. All right, so we can't talk about climate justice without also addressing social justice. So we see these same bad actors who are funding fossil fuel projects also fund ICE, private prisons, and immigrant detention facilities. So big companies like CoreCivic and the Geo Group. And another way this impacts people here in Colorado is because of the Geo Group, which has an immigrant detention facility in Aurora. And there have been disease outbreaks and serious human rights abuses, and that was even before the current pandemic, which has exacerbated everything all the more. And we've had members of Congress struggle to even get access inside the facility, despite reports of inadequate or rotting food and vital medical care being denied and people actually dying as a result of it. So Vanguard and BlackRock, sound familiar, I'm sure, are the two largest shareholders of the Geo Group and CoreCivic. And although most banks have recently committed to stop providing financing to Geo Group and other large private prison corporations, that just means that they are no longer extending lines of credit or term loans, but they have still kept their assets. So JP Morgan Chase owns shares in Geo Group, which are worth over $22 million. So basically, these banks and asset managers are creating a supply of human misery from beginning to end. They fund fossil fuels, which cause climate disaster, which is then a push factor for migration. And then they continue to profit by incarcerating migrants and keeping them in horrifying conditions. So we really wanted to highlight how all of these issues are connected, and that is why we have got to stop the money pipeline and fight so that people are put over profit, and so human rights and Indigenous sovereignty are respected. So now I'm going to pass it over to Mika Ironshell Dominguez and Renee Millar-Chacon, who are with IIYC and Women from the Mountain, to talk more about how all this relates to missing and murdered Indigenous women, girls, and people.
Thank you, Mariah. My name is Micaela Ironshell Dominguez. Let me pull this up, sorry, one second. Okay. Thousands of Native women within the United States and Canada, as well as Indigenous women from Mexico and Latin America, are trafficked throughout the world every day. Haumatakiapi, Chante na pe chiazapi. Hello. I welcome you all with a warm, heartfelt handshake. I hope you are doing well today. My name is Micaela Ironshell Dominguez. I am a Chichangu Lakota woman, born and raised here in Denver, Colorado. As Mariah said, I am a part of the International Indigenous Youth Council, as well as a co-founder of Women from the Mountain. Today I'm going to discuss the ongoing crisis of missing and murdered Indigenous women with my sister Renee and my sister Amy. Thank you both. I want to first acknowledge that our First Nations sisters started leading this movement decades ago. The term missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls started over there in Canada with the First Nations Sisters of Highway of Tears. They are continuing to fight systematic racism and speak for our loved ones. And when I say ours, it's because we don't have borders. That's a colonized concept. We can acknowledge one another, and we're calling awareness. We're demanding justice. Indigenous women all over Turtle Island, Mexico, Canada have taken the lead in increasing awareness on high numbers of their sisters who go missing and die to violence. Did you know the Department of Justice surveyed 2,000 American Indian women, and 84% of those women have experienced violence in their lives? I'm a part of that percentage. 56% of Native women experience sexual violence, and 90% of those Native women who experience sexual violence were victims of non-Native perpetrators. And 60% of Native women have experienced psychological violence in their lifetimes. These numbers seriously underestimate the actual statistics for Native women because there's no infrastructure in place to handle the amounts of complaints. The truth of the matter is this. We need to send a message to the world that you can't just keep killing a Native American and get away with it. Just like in the past, today, right now, that is what our government wants. That is the message that they send, that there's no justice for us, that you can do whatever to us and get away with it, and that needs to change. We want support from all the police departments, the FBI, from the courts to the prosecutors to the coroners. We need allies, we need non-natives, we need whoever wants to join and speak up for us. And so right now I'd like to go ahead and end there and pass this on to my sister Renee, and then we can go ahead and follow into discussion from there. Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning. Buenos dias, Cuautitlanetsi. My name is Renee Millard Chacon. I am Youth Program Coordinator at Spirit of the Sun and co-founder of Women from the Mountain. I'm an educator, Azteca danzante, Chicana activist, and most importantly, the mother of 2 sons. I'm an Indigenous woman of Dene Mexica descent, fighting for future generations and committing to relating this social justice injustice to climate justice. Addressing where communities have been targeted and isolated with pollution and corruption is critical in addressing the climate crisis. Issues of environmental racism and exploitation of resources and land leaves MMIW and missing and murdered Indigenous people not as the latest, but as the first example of the first human victims to exploited effects of overconsumption, of environmental resources spilling over to social injustice, of marginalized and impoverished communities not able to legally protect themselves from it. At the root of this is predatory capitalism, where people deeply impoverished will be the first to be hit with toxicity, both material and socioeconomic resources, and social, and exploitation and trafficking since the US was founded. We need to recognize that contributing factors of this social injustice worldwide are predatory capitalism is modern colonialism. It preys on those easiest to harm without any protections for those communities. When local and rural sovereign communities have to provide for themselves socioeconomically, as people do, they're put in a position to seek outside of their community's protection and awareness. Without resources that hold predators accountable legally, both in economics, on federal and state policies, exploitation and harm to local members always happens when it's predatory, and it does go unnoticed, and it's been invisible for centuries. At the root of this radical exploitation is poverty and lack of representation, including lack of access to the most basic human rights, legal protections, and access to affluence to build their own social economic stability and renewable infrastructure. We don't want a seat at the table, we want our own table. The long legacy of this suffering has led to dramatic inequity, inequality, and no enforcement or accountability to protect the children, women, men, and earth being destroyed to outdated, wasteful industries, never committed to renewable, sustainable, and inclusive progress for our future generations, and I mean all of ours. It should never be okay to hurt local, poor, and rural communities who cannot legally represent themselves and protect themselves from corporations' overconsumption and wasteful methods of extraction of raw materials. If it's not okay to harm your community, it should be not okay to harm any community, which means it should not be done to our earth. This is why we honor those lost in this fight. This is why we fight for these protections of Indigenous communities and the earth in our campaign and our existence. From man camps, truck stops, maquiladoras to detention centers, this is still a flesh for cash business, whether it's women and children or the earth. This is why we represent this MMIW narrative in Denver. And this is why our existence is crucial. I thank you for listening, and I would like to pass it to Amy.
My heart, I'm goosebumps from my sister Renee. So we'd like to invite all of our relatives to participate today in making this prevalent on social media. If you have your very cool, tie your bandana, your awesome bandana across your face, and you can see it behind me. Take a picture of yourself with your face mask on and a homemade sign, and then post on social media with the hashtag MMIWGP. And if you have a missing relative and are comfortable, please post a picture of your missing person and use the hashtag bring them home. and MMIWGP.
Thank you.
And now I'd like to hand it over to Ian Thomas Tafoya from Green Latinos and Lucy Molina, Emmett Hobley, and Patricia Nelson for our Frontline Fight Back Roundtable.
Welcome and thank you to everybody for everything that you said there. Really powerful. I myself am Hickory Apache. My family's descended from the headwaters of the Rio Grande and the Conejos River. And so I think that's really important. I also just think I want to take a moment and say to all the men who are listening, we clearly have a responsibility to do more to protect our women, our children, and our earth. We see here how many powerful women there are working. We have that responsibility. A lot of elders have talked to me about that in recent years. So really honored to actually produce this panel with these amazing people that I work with on a regular basis. The title, Frontline Fight Back, is something that I'm hoping you can join me in a call and response right now. Since we're not actually able to rally like we have been in the past, we have to do these virtual. So when I say frontline, you say fight back, right? I think we do it 3 times. So when I say frontline, you say
Fight back!
frontline.
Fight back!
Frontline.
Fight back!
All right, so we're all geared up there. We definitely needed to have some of that, I think, it juiced up going in here. So I appreciate the amazing background on how all of these things are connected to the money pipeline. And we brought together people in the community who are not only involved in corporate responsibility, they're involved in some sort of regulatory, legislative, or electoral process to exercise and flex their muscle to push back. I think so often we hear about frontline communities as people who are there, who are suffering and taking on a lot of pollution. Much of that is true, but we're also very resilient people. We're very organized people. We're more connected than we've ever been. And we have leaders who are willing to be out front and take the heat. And I think it's really important to realize that across this globe, these same companies are funding projects where they are murdering organizers like you and me. They are taking their lives on a regular basis, indigenous peoples around this planet, for having a voice to try to stop what we're doing today. And so I really do want to honor the fact that we do live in a system like America. It's not mean that there's no violence or there's no racism. I'm sure that the other people you're going to hear here on, not only are they subjected to systemic environmental racism, but on a regular basis, we get racism. The more out front we've been on these issues, just like you see with Tay Anderson in Denver or Candy C. Tabaka, I get those emails. I'm sure Emmett and some of these other people get these emails. But that's what it says to me is these people understand the change is coming and they're unwilling to deal with it. And so they go to attacking us as personal beings instead of our issues, which means we're winning. So I have an amazing panel here. We have Patricia Nelson, who you just saw the presentation about Bella Romero and how this is affecting a school across the street from them. We have Lucy Molina, who lives in the shadow of Suncor and has used her spirit and her frustration with the community to run for office to try to be the change, and works with state leaders at the Capitol to pass legislation that will improve not only her community. I think that's the really important thing. Though she might be fighting for Suncor or Patricia might be fighting for Bella Romero, this kind of policy leads to long-term systemic change, and it's a great thing for us to start with. And then lastly, we have Emmett. And Emmett comes from Montbello or Green Valley Ranch. I think it's Montbello, Emmett. But Emmett is an amazing organizer in the Black community there. Huge health disparities we're seeing exposed with COVID. And Emmett has spent his time dedicated to organizing folks for a charter amendment here in Denver, Colorado with Resilient Denver that would ban fossil fuel extraction within Denver, would not allow forced pooling from counties next door to us, or storage of the toxic wastewater that's created. So I want to start with you, Lucy, and I'm hoping you could just come on the line.
Hola, buenos días. Good morning, and God bless you all.
So Lucy,
Yes.
you've been involved at the state capitol. I see you there all the time at the state capitol fighting. Can you talk to us what it's like to try to work with state leaders to create a new law, especially in a system that has been historically not on our side with these kind of rulings or laws?
Sure. Thank you so much. And just to introduce myself, my name is Lucy Molina from Commerce City, and I'm also just a concerned citizen and most importantly, a mother of 2 awesome kids. So I always say, again, I also thank everyone here for the space, 350 Colorado. Thanks for all the work that you guys do, Green Latinos, Women from the Mountain, everyone there. Thanks for all the work that you all do. It's really encouraging and inspiring for me. I always say, Ian, we gotta educate before we regulate, okay? So that is something that I've quickly learned, okay? Because in my experience of getting involved in this movement, really, again, it comes down to being a mother. So I was facing like truancy because of my kids missing a lot of school. So I didn't know who to reach. We do need to, one is, we need to research and know our representatives. We need to, and if, you know, to know if they support our issues, and also, and if they don't, we need to educate them. We need to educate them about what's going on in our community. At least in mine, I face, again, a lot of people know in Commerce City, we do face, I live right next to Suncor. I can walk to Suncor from my house, which is why I started getting involved. It was like, we are in the lowest performing district, Adams 14 district. We almost lost our only high school. They're trying to privatize our district. So I really always say, I came out kicking and screaming from my house because I was being attacked environmentally and also through the education system. Because my kids, it's not my fault. My kids are going through migraines, bloody noses, all kinds of issues, medical issues that had never happened before. So working with our state legislature, well, at least I have, we've had the luck, I guess, to work with people like Benavides, Dominic Moreno, definitely Mike Foote, with being able just to introduce myself, you know, because as you know, Ian and everyone, that we're, inclusion is a big issue for us. A lot of us are not, at least we're not included, at least in these, you know, Spanish-speaking communities that clearly are some of the most affected, have no idea what's going on. So I honestly really had to literally go and knock on doors, go to the Capitol, introduce myself, whether they like me or not, whether they're Republican or a Democrat. I had to introduce myself as a concerned citizen and fighting for not only my children, but for my neighbors. Because here in Commerce City, as we know, we have like the highest percentage of asthma children, just like Mariah said earlier. Cancer, we're fighting cancer right now. My grandmother passed away from leukemia 2 years ago. The same year, my other aunt died at 63. Right now, my other aunt, it is 80216, which is where my grandmother lives, which is where I grew up. Now I live on the other side of Suncor, but still fighting cancer. She just had surgery 2 days ago. So these communities really, I feel our representatives need to be educated. They need to be educated so they could be able to regulate.
Okay, Lucy, I have just a quick follow-up question for you. Can you give us a pro tip to making the Capitol more convenient? You know, whether it's skipping through a line or you know of a better place to park or planning out your schedule. I don't know. I just think we should be sharing pro tips with people right now about how they can influence the process.
Well, it's Denver downtown, right? Parking is also, it's a big issue. I think definitely parking would be, it's help carpooling, you know, maybe, I know that I, you know, got to meet with some of the groups like 350, like Logic, some of the groups that were protesting for SB 181. I got to join them and we kind of carpool together so we can, you know, make it more affordable also, because parking is like $20 a day. So also, as far as the lines, I mean, I don't, I think just, you know, to encourage each other to be, get there an hour early. Get there an hour early. I don't see, at least in our community, Ian, we are still so behind to even, some of us didn't even know that we were allowed to go to the Capitol, and it's free and it's for us and it's a public place. So again, I'm always going to go back to educating, because unless someone educated me and told me that I had a voice and that I could go and reach out to my representatives, then I wouldn't have known. So again, it's just bringing that awareness to the communities and to the people that they have that accessibility.
I think that's wonderful. I think we're starting to see with this teleconferencing a lot more opportunity for people to participate where and how they are, which I think is great. I also just want to take this moment to say we need to be always talking about field hearings. There's always an opportunity to bring these hearings into our own communities where we can get more people there instead of having to make us go to the seat of power. They can come to us if they're going to be talking about regulations in our community. We were able to achieve that with a permit update for Suncor. We've been able to do that around I-70 construction and the health impacts. And so I just really want to note that for y'all, that there's always an opportunity. I think we should always be asking if a field hearing is on the table. So I want to go to Patricia next. Thanks for joining us, Patricia. I know that you'll probably take a minute here to just introduce yourself, and I'm hoping that you can weave in the work that you have been doing around the Air Quality Control Commission and the Colorado Oil and Gas Conservation Commission.
Yeah, hello. I know a lot of you on the panel, and I know a lot of our friends here that are joining us today. So thank you everyone for taking time to join us. My name is Patricia Nelson. My son is a student at Bala Romero Academy. Bala Romero Academy, as was mentioned in the presentation, became the home basically for a 24 well pad, about 686 feet from the playground. You know, in my mind, the first time I heard about it, I couldn't believe that this was happening. And it did not make sense to me that that an industrial site was going to be built this close to a school when no other industry can get this close to homes and schools. As Julia mentioned as well, this project was slated to go behind a more affluent school. There was rallying from the parents, there was rallying from the city of Greeley. Ultimately, they chose the side behind Bala Romero because it was going to be 400 feet outside of the into the county, and so there would not have to have any pushback from the city of Greeley. And I really feel like they chose that side as well because of the geographical isolation. I live on the east side of town. We are geographically isolated from the rest of the city of Greeley because we have a highway that runs through and kind of sets us apart. And so a lot of these industries don't put out any notices in any other language other than English. A lot of my community members only are monolingual. We have a lot of immigrant and refugees that are a part of our community as well. So the access to the information is not available for them. I have been trying to work with the school districts to start putting out more information in not only English and Spanish, but Somali, Swahili. We have over 80 different languages spoken in our school district, and so that communication is very important. Like Lucy was saying, we need to educate our fellow neighbors, but how can we educate them if they're not able to access information in a language they can understand? So definitely one of the things that I didn't know I was able to do, like Lucy was saying, was going to these hearings and making a statement and letting people know that I had concerns. I never knew I could do that until I became a part of this movement. Going to AQCC hearings, COGCC hearings, and when it comes down to it, it doesn't matter if they don't listen to you. The point is that you are showing up. And when you show up and you encourage others to show up, we're going to start filling up that bowl of rice, and soon it's going to topple over and they're not going to be able to ignore us. I've been to COGCC hearings where the commissioners are falling asleep during testimony. And I'm sure I'm not the only one that's experienced that. And so again, it's very, very important to make time to go to these hearings. You only get 2 minutes, but you have to be there all day. You know, it does take a lot of time and commitment, but like I was saying before, if all of us start showing up, they can't ignore us.
So interesting you say that about falling asleep. I recall just this last session, there were some Republican state representatives that fell asleep during our environmental justice bill hearings. We even took some pictures of them. It was quite shocking, to be quite honest. So you're saying, you know, you have to wait there all day. You only get to speak for 2 hours. Can you talk about some pro tips to, like, maybe you like take other work with you, maybe you use it as a time to network? Like, what are some good takeaways from the fact that we all are in one place together?
I mean, it could be helpful for some people that absolutely have to get work done to bring it with you. I've taken some knitting projects with me as well to work on while I'm waiting. But I think it's also important to, you know, sometimes even take notes of what other people are saying, because you may not know that you can build a coalition of other concerned citizens that are fighting the same fights as you. You know, I just recently met Lucy, but you know, we're both just, we're moms. We always just keep saying that we're just moms. And, you know, we can form coalitions out of being able to listen to each other and listen to each other's concerns. And, you know, one of the things that I also wanted to bring up was, you know, in my community, we are so heavily impacted and controlled by oil and gas. But one of the things that we need to remember is that the poor air quality doesn't just stay in Weld County. The pollution doesn't stay in Weld County. All of these impacts don't just stay in Weld County, and it's so important to be able to build those coalitions so that we are able to confront this issue as a state. You know, yesterday I was on a different panel, I was talking about how we have the opportunity to create innovation. We have the opportunity, our community used to be all agricultural. And so we have that opportunity to start, you know, harvesting and cultivating plants like hemp and bamboo. And we have so much opportunity. We have a lot of land up here that instead of being used for oil and gas development, we could be using it for solar and wind development as well.
So I just want to piggyback on that really quick, Patricia. So we have been talking for a long time about how places like Mesa County, places like Weld County, the state of New Mexico have really hooked themselves to the public financing. New Mexico, I think it's like over 40% of their budget comes from oil and gas leasing. I know it's huge in your community. So when we start to talk about, you know, just transition, I think part of that has to be ensuring we don't have austerity of teachers and firefighters and all kinds of public health workers. I mean, you name it, they're going to be trying to cut budgets right now. And so I'm just, you know, I hear what you're saying about other opportunities. And so I just wanted to just pose that question.
Yeah, so I mean, right now it's a very scary time in my community, especially because the price of a barrel of oil has gone down into the negative amount. And so we've really put ourselves into a difficult position because we've put all of our eggs in one basket, solely relying on that funding from oil and gas. So I really feel like we're going to have to do something fairly quickly to be able to fill in those gaps that are going to be left behind by oil and gas. You know, to fund. I know we've actually in the city of Greeley, we've actually increased taxes on ourselves to be able to fund new fire stations in a couple of cities surrounding us. And so I think ultimately it will be left up to us to probably start taxing ourselves to be able to fill in those gaps.
Okay, great. Emmett, I'm going to go to you next. You're still muted, buddy.
Yeah, okay.
Oh, there we got you.
All right.
So, Emmett, thanks again for joining us today. I think it's really important. I think I want you to introduce yourself, of course, but I want to bridge into this question that we're getting to here, which is just transition. You yourself were an oil worker, an injured oil worker, who's been now a really vocal opponent of the industry. And I'm wondering if you can talk to us about yourself, but also talk to us about how we can talk to workers and say, this is your moment. This is the opportunity, because the market is where it is, to help guide you to some other direction that isn't extractive and destructive to our community. And that's probably better for their psychology in the long run.
Hey, everyone, my name is Emmett Hobley. I'm a grassroots community organizer. Working in this since about 2005. I got injured in 2006 in Wyoming in an oil rig accident. And I want to tell all the oil and gas workers that they have so many different skills that are transferable to other areas of business, like solar, wind. I mean, there was people there that were basically engineers. So they can go on and retrain to do other things that will be much more productive for them and for the community.
Yeah, that makes me think about, electricians and engineers. Like when people think about a Green New Deal and a just transition, they're not thinking about bus manufacturers or public transit components. There's a lot of other pieces to this that are not just solar and wind. When we talk about regenerative agriculture, when we talk about housing, I think we need to bring in all these things as an opportunity to redirect them and redirect their energy and skills. So, yeah. Did I get it right? You live in Montbello or Green Valley Ranch?
I live in Montbello.
Montbello. So Montbello being a hot spot right now for COVID because of long-term exposed issues. Can you talk to us about organizing the Black community for public health?
Yes, it's very important because as we've all discussed on the panel about the social and economic racism that's taken place in our communities for decades and centuries, and now this COVID virus has kind of laid it all bare. Healthcare, we have the least amount of healthcare. We live in areas that became virtual dump sites for big business, oil, gas, Suncor, Rocky Flats. All these things have been dumped in on our communities. It has increased our asthma, our lupus, cancer, all those different things that we have to fight on top of the coronavirus. And right now we're in the midst of fighting gentrification and of our neighborhoods and oil and gas industry. We want to make sure that the residents in our area understand that the health impacts of bringing these oil rigs in too close to our communities. We have to educate our community about the methane, the ethane, all the different health factors that are going to be caused in our community. We have to be cognizant of the dangers that the natural gas pipelines coming into our community can cause. What we're going to do with this hazardous waste that's produced, 8 to 11 million gallons of hazardous waste per frac. Where they're going to put that at? Are they going to pump that back into our ground and cause earthquakes and fires and explosions? These are the things we're fighting for in our communities. We're also fighting to educate our communities about destruction of the oil and gas industry, our equity gaps that are being caused in our communities. So we're trying to institute all kinds of different programs, equity wealth building programs that will uplift our communities in the future, build generational wealth, so that we as a community can come together and be able to invest and develop our own communities and have more say in them.
So talking about having more say in your community, you and I and 350 with Sonny Benoit and Joe Salazar and Tony Pickford, they're leaders all across Denver who come together to really push this conversation about a charter amendment, because we're really tired of running initiatives and then city council changing them 6 months later. They just come in and industry finds their way to have a stakeholders meeting. And what I really think all of us need to start taking away from them is the Colorado way, the Denver way. The Colorado way is to make sure that business has their seat at the table and all of these people have their way at the table. We need to redefine what the fuck the Colorado way is. And I'm sorry to curse at y'all, but like Patricia, like I do this in hearings sometimes because I think you got to wake these people up. They are sitting there listening to people read the same thing off of their papers. We have to look them in the eyes, and we have to shake it up, because these decorum rules were defined to exclude people like us in the first place. And that's why we have to demand these field hearings and be more vocal about our issues. So we've worked on electoral politics here, and I want to go back to Lucy really quick, because Lucy and I both saw problems in our community, and we decided to run for office. We took on big lifts. I can say, at least in my experience, we laid the groundwork for Candy Sitabaka to come in and win that seat, challenge Albus Brooks. I only ran for 108 days. We got 30% off of him. You know, he raised the most money ever in history, and it took our community another 4 years to only win by 80-something votes. That is the kind of money and the work that we're up against. And so, Lucy, I know that you're out there grinding, knocking the doors. You were everywhere that needed to be. That's what the community needs to see. And you went big, right? Because you ran for like at large, right?
Yes.
You're like, I'm taking this whole town on. I'm not even sitting on my little neighborhood.
Yes, and I was very close. Actually, you know, I was off by 150 votes, which it was a first time run. Honestly, it was like, it was probably one of the scariest things. I don't know about you, Ian, and any of you that have ran before, but it was one of the scariest things I've ever done. You know, just to expose myself and my family, you know, which is why I'm so comfortable now speaking about myself and the issues that I've fight for. So for me, it was like, we fought, at least here in Commerce City, it's big oil and gas money. I mean, the people that are now in my place, I mean, if you guys know Commerce City, it's like, it's corruption all over. Aurora to Weld County, Greeley. Here in Commerce City, there's so much corruption that, you know, I mean, it's a challenging race. One, I will tell you and everybody, and in Commerce City, I'm not giving up, because I know that we lack representation. There's nobody there still speaking for me. Even my local representatives from my ward are still not protecting or doing anything about us in this area of, you know, that we're next to Suncor here being poisoned for almost 100 years. So it has been it's been a challenge. And honestly, it's the only way we can do it though, Ian. You know, I think even if I didn't make it this time, I'm gonna continue next year, 2021. I'm gonna run again. And I say to everyone, we need to support those people that are running for our causes. For me, I do believe there's a climate crisis. So there has to be laws and legislation changed from a local level. Even, you know, our municipalities, even Senate Bill 181 gave local control to our local governments. But unfortunately, like we see in Greeley, Patricia, right, that they're using this bill was supposed to protect the health and safety of community, but oil and gas definitely is using it to protect themselves and putting people in office that are protecting them. They're not there for us. That's why I always say, you know, corporations, industries have found the pot of gold and at the end of taxpayer rainbow in every community, especially in communities like ours, like Emmett's, like Patricia's. You know what I mean? That's why we do need to continue fighting. We do need to find and support, not only financially, but education-wise, local representatives, people that will go for us, that have the courage, that have the knowledge, that have the honestly, the brave and the courage. Honestly, you really need just the courage to go up there and fight for us. So yes, and I'd say let's continue doing it. I'm not gonna give up. Last year was a tryout for me. I saw that I got so many votes in, you know, less than 3 months. I organized with no money. I got my sponsorships or my endorsements, little bit Post-its. I was doing Post-its, knocking on doors like you saw, Ian. You guys helped me also, 350. A lot of my friends, you know, family, we need to continue doing this, and we need to find more people that will do it for us. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much, Lucy. I just want to say to anybody out there who's thinking about running for office or running an initiative, there are all sorts of academies that exist out there, Emily's List, all these kinds, with Our Revolution, etc. I think we need to be building that personal network within ourselves to be supporting people of color that are running for office. I think it's just a really crucial thing. There's one thing that I want to just close with, and I think that is, this all keeps coming back to land use. If you add up all the public lands in America on a federal level, they would be the 5th largest polluter in the world, right? And the US military is #1. So we have a lot of change to do with our public lands. And when we talk about these zoning issues that 181 pushed down, we need to be educating. I've been really laying the groundwork here, I think, for some sort of land use academy. And I think even more now with 181 because of austerity, if we end up firing or not hiring people to review these contracts at the county level, then they're going to be squeaking things through. And so we have to be really thinking about looking at the line items on who they're hiring and who they're not hiring, and demanding that that's not programs that get cut. So I just want to say in closing, Emmett, wonderful. I love working with you. Trisha, love working with you. Lucy, we're in it. I tell you, we're going to get them. We're going to continue with Suncor till it's done. That's how I feel. So since everyone's all fired up right now, I want to do the rally cry and then we're done. I want to do it 4 times. So remember, it's front line and then fight back, all right? Front line.
Fight back.
Fight back.
Line.
Fight back.
Front line.
Fight back.
Front line.
Fight back.
Much love to everybody. We can win this money pipeline battle. I do believe it.
Thank you so much, Ian, and to our amazing panelists. I'm going to share my screen so we can close out with some more calls to action and ways to get involved and information about the evening session. But that was so powerful. I'm just like eternal gratitude and in awe to be like on a Zoom call with the most amazing people on this planet. Y'all literally made me cry. So I'm going to share my screen and we'll hop back into the presentation. Okay. Amy, you want to take it away?
I do. So don't forget, behind me, you can see our call to action for missing and murdered Indigenous women, girls, and people. And the next, like, this was so incredible. I'm so fired up. And I imagine that a lot of people are sitting here the same as me, feeling just incredibly fired up. So our calls to action, make a call. Go to stopthemoneypipeline.com, click on take action, scroll down and click make a call, and then familiarize yourself with the script. Come up with one of your own, and call all three of our targets. Call JP Morgan Chase, call BlackRock, call Liberty Mutual. Give them a piece of your mind. After hearing all of this from our fellow community members, they need to hear how this is impacting Colorado, and we need to take it digitally. Not that I was going to say take it to the streets, and then I remember we're in lockdown. And then another great tool that we have today is our digital toolkit. And this is in conjunction with a whole bunch of groups across the United States. I know 350 PDX is at it today, as are lots of people. So take our digital toolkit. We'll post the link in the chat. Mariah's posting links right now. This is a toolkit to learn how to leave reviews on Google, Yelp, Yellow Pages. Leave it on their social media. Go comment on their posts. Tweet at them. All of these things, they pay attention to their social media. They have people who do this, and they listen sometimes, and you know, the reviews are awesome. So use that Takeover toolkit today. After this call. And then something local that I think is really important to highlight is to sign the petition. This is a big coalition petition between lots of groups throughout Colorado, and we'll post the link in the chat, but also if you can't grab it from there, you can go to the 350 Colorado homepage and sign the petition. It's to protect our air quality during a respiratory pandemic. And on the next slide, you can see some of the 1-star reviews. So you can leave, there's little pictures you can download in the toolkit to add to your reviews. There's sample reviews. There's tons of stuff to help you leave a review somewhere online today for Digital Takeover Day. And then next is one of my favorite things is protect people, not polluters. And there's a petition on stopthemoneypipeline.com. We'll post the link here in the chat. This is a people, not polluters petition. Head over to that website, sign the petition, share it on your social media, tweet it, circulate it through your networks, and help us get signatures for that. So when we talk about stopping the money pipeline, it's not just stopping everything that we've heard about up until this point. Stopping the money pipeline must include a just recovery. We cannot continue as business as usual. The requirements for a just recovery are to put people's health first, absolutely no exceptions, to provide economic relief directly to the people, not to these corporations, to help the workers and our communities, not the corporate executives. We shouldn't be bailing out and giving bonuses to oil company executives when people in our own communities are suffering. We need to create resilience for future crises, and we need to build solidarity and community across borders and not empower authoritarians. There's also a great call to action to help push for a just recovery. Go to 350.org/just-recovery and sign the letter to support a just recovery from COVID-19. I would also love to thank all of our partner organizations that we have worked with over the last couple months to make this Stop the Money Pipeline Digital Action Day happen. The list is extensive. Everyone on this call wears multiple hats, volunteers at multiple organizations and within our communities. Keep going to those mutual aid folks and helping them out as well. So thank you to everyone who helped us make this day possible. And then with that, to close, we'd like to premiere our second letter of our 3 days of virtual banners. Yesterday, we premiered the word strike. Today, we're adding the word divest, and then I bet you can guess what word we're adding tomorrow. But thank you to everybody who participates in Art-Ins and participates in these virtual banners, because just because we can't be together doesn't mean we can't make beautiful art together. And just because we're not together doesn't mean that we can't make an impact locally. So thank you, everybody.
Yeah. And for folks who are wondering, okay, we're going to stop the money pipeline, where should we bank instead? Like, what kind of insurance companies should we be using? What other things can we be doing? Definitely want to encourage you to join us again at 5 p.m. this evening. We're going to be talking about how we can empower our communities with local solutions that stop this money pipeline and invest in public banking, divestment from fossil fuels, all of those kind of things. So today was really about what is the money pipeline and how are we being impacted, and tonight is really going to be about what are some of the solutions to that as well. So we hope that you'll join us, and I just really want to thank everyone again so much for joining, to our incredible panelists and presenters. Y'all have moved me beyond what I thought was possible. You know, these last couple of days have just been incredible, and I thank everybody for your support and for working together on this, and onward. So thank you, everybody. We'll see you later. Have a good day. And I'll stick around to answer any questions in the chat for a little bit.
Yeah, I think there seems to be a problem with the make a call, because it is just going to the national live stream. So
oh no, it'll probably be available tomorrow after the national live stream is over, because I think that's part of the shut the web down thing today, that all the websites are going to the national live stream. So
right.
It should be available tomorrow morning.
Oh, yeah, okay, we'll have to send that out again. You can always look up their number, just call them.
Well, and I know I know we have Jamie Dimon's like office number, so I know we're trying to push calls in directly to his.
Yes. Yeah. And for folks, so we'll send out more resources for that to take action. And there's also a Divest Action page on our 350 Colorado website that has all these things and links. So if you're looking for more ways to take action, you can just go there as well. And Amy just dropped another link in the chat.
Yeah, there is a link if you can, and you can just use Google to find it if you're on Facebook and you can't grab that link. Just type in 350.org, call Jamie Dimon, and there's the number, there's a script, and there's even a little report back that you can do after you've made your call. And we'll post all the links on the 350 Colorado.
Here, I'm putting the link in right now. There's a page that we're adding stuff to. There it is. Cool. And that will have the information from the evening presentation as well. And if you want to share this amazing presentation, it's on our Facebook. If you're on Facebook, you can share it there. We'll also be downloading it and adding it to the our Strike With Us page on the 350 Colorado website, and it'll be on our YouTube page. So definitely feel free to share this as far and wide as possible.
And then come back tonight at 5 o'clock Mountain Time and join us for our next session.
All right. Bye. Stopping the live stream. Okay.